Okay, Emmy fans, today all Emmy mysteries will be solved because we have with us the Executive Vice President of the Television Academy, John Leverence, who's in charge of the awards department and who's been running the show over there, since Milton Berle's been around, John?
Since 1980.
Since 1980. All right, yesterday you sent me a very, very funny email, and you said, if only the good old days were here when Roots was a miniseries and Gunsmoke was a drama series. You are right now in the line of fire because television is converging. The definitions are all over the place, and there's a lot of controversy about what defines a drama series, what defines a miniseries. We've seen True Detective move over, arguably a miniseries. We've seen that move over to drama series, and we've seen Treme, which has competed as a drama series, move over to miniseries. So, John, take it from there. Explain what's going on.
Okay, shall we start with Treme?
Sure, okay.
Treme was an HBO drama series for any number of years, and now in its final season, it did not have a total of 6 episodes, which is the necessary requirement to get into the drama series category. So what we have with Treme is a limited series, and therefore its only spot within the competition would be within the miniseries category. It perhaps is not ideally located, but that's the best we can do since it couldn't go into drama series because it didn't have 6 episodes. So that's Treme. We had, by the way, the same thing last year with, now the name escapes me, it was I'm sorry?
The Big C with Laura Linney.
Yeah, the Big C. I thought you said the Big Sleep. I was thinking, did Raymond Chandler the awards last year? Yeah, you're absolutely right. It was precisely the same kind of a situation that we had last year that we have this year with Treme. Shall we move on to True Detective?
Yes, please.
Okay. True Detective is, I think, probably what you might call a stem cell categorization, and that is it probably is not going to know until the second season exactly what kind of a morph it's going to take, if in fact it does take another season. It's a situation in which, per the generally accepted industry rule that a WGA categorization as a created by series would go into a regular series category. If you want to have a mini-series and you have that created by categorization in your contract, then you have to come to the Academy and make a request, as, for example, Ryan Murphy did a couple of years ago during the first season of American Horror Story. He had it created by he perceived the series over the long run to be standalone stories on any given year, and therefore he said, I'd like to go into mini-series because next year we're going to be doing another version of the mini-series, and even though I have the created by, it's not really a regular series. So the benchmark for regular series, such as The Americans or The Blacklist, whatever it might be, would be that WGA marker, generally, universally, industry accepted as a regular series contract marker. And therefore, because they did not ask for something else, we just had them in drama series. You know, again, as I say, it's kind of a stem cell situation. The first year of Downton Abbey, we had what we considered to be a mini-series, legitimately so. It then got picked up and it went on to become a drama series with a recurring cast and recurring storyline. So it's becoming more and more difficult with any number of programs to identify them in their first year. And this was a situation, as I've described it, how we ID'd True Detective. Who knows what will happen next year, and it very well might change to something else. With regards to Fargo, Fargo was a situation in which they entered as a miniseries. They had a created for television credit on that, which we considered to be a differentiator between the Coen Brothers feature and the TV show. So Treme and True Detective and Fargo are now demystified for your viewers.
So why is that the definition, though? Why can't the definition simply be that if a program has more than 6 episodes and recurring characters from year to year, that defines a miniseries? It seems, why is that created by Thing, the Decider?
Well, we have to look for some kind of a benchmark during the first year. And since we don't know that it's going to be coming back for the next year or how it's going to morph into the next year, we have to identify it as best we can with the evidence that presents itself in the first year. And the benchmark, the universally agreed upon benchmark for a regular series, the created by credit, is one way that we are able to do that.
Okay. Chris, what questions do you have?
Along those lines, it's an incredibly rare situation that you would allow a show to move over after several years to a new category, and you did that with Shameless this year. What went into that decision?
As you know, in 2009, we had the rule that if you were in drama series or in comedy series, then you stayed in drama or comedy series. Shameless came into television prior to that rule, and John Wells, the executive producer, came to the Academy and said, I don't think that this was ever really properly categorized when it went into drama series. This is the way it went down back then, but I have a stable of comedy series writers. My writers' room has a comedy series sensibility, despite the fact that there is a kind of grim storyline that perhaps might skew more in the direction of drama series than comedy series. The sensibility with which we approach this is basically more in a perhaps absurdist, rather dark comedic mode. But Samuel Beckett could do that in Waiting for Godot, which is one of the funniest plays you ever want to see. Harold Pinter did that again and again and again in his plays, which were hysterically funny, but at the same time rather dramatic, if you will. So that was the argument that John presented to the Board of Governors, and the board said, okay, we trust your creative judgment on this, and we will grant the waiver to move over to comedy series.
Now, John, back in the old days, shows did sometimes move around, right? Was it Gilmore Girls, Moonlighting? I forget which shows did actually compete in both drama and comedy. Father Knows Best, was it? Going way back then?
I can say definitively that we had that change with Moonlighting, where it was comedy series one year went over to drama series, or drama series one year went over to comedy series, but it was very rare. And I think that was at the beginning of the era of the dramedy. And before that, you had I Love Lucy type sitcom, and then all of a sudden when you had, I think that it was mainly with the advent of cable, perhaps more specifically with Showtime getting into the original drama and comedy series area, that you had a kind of blurred generic phenomenon going on where the spectrum for comedy series or for drama series was really enlarged quite a bit. And you had, for example, in comedy series down at one end, the kind of production that Chuck Lorre specializes in with Big Bang, or on the other end, more the kind of HBO Lifetime, no sound, no laugh track in them, Nurse Jackie or The Big C or Weeds, that kind of thing.
My next question has to do with this confusion about variety series and performers and guest stars. So the Saturday Night Live people compete. All of those ensemble players compete in supporting comedy actor or actress. Fred Armisen this year competes in, which was great to see IFC represented here, but he's clearly the lead of that show, and he's nominated in supporting. Couldn't, so if you could explain that confusion. And one more thing, couldn't Stephen Colbert theoretically, if he wanted to, enter in Best Lead Comedy Actor, or no? Because he plays a character on that show. He doesn't play himself.
Right. We have a rule that if you're in an ensemble in a variety show, that you are able to enter in support for supporting performer in comedy. That was a rule that came in several years ago, and that's the reason why you have those ensemble players from SNL moving over into the support in comedy series. So that's just kind of a linkage that is structured within the Academy rules. Fred is in a program that is not a comedy series but is a variety series. One of the hallmarks of a variety series is that it doesn't have a through line plot as you would have, say, in a Big Bang episode, where you would begin at point A and go through a middle and then to a conclusion, whereas Portlandia skews more over in the direction of kind of 2 or 3 act skit comedy, and hence its variety, and hence Fred would automatically, through the linkage of ensemble variety casts, move over into support and comedy. That's just kind of an internal knee-jerk sort of situation. An intriguing notion that you have, Tom, with regards to Colbert playing that role on his show. I don't know, maybe we'll hear from him. Or
I did tell him that a couple years ago, and he said, I can, really? He goes, I want to do it, and then we never heard back.
Yeah, he comes in because his name is in the title of the show. He would come in as the host of the show.
Yeah. Chris, couldn't all this be solved if the Academy would just bring back the individual performance in a variety show? This is our favorite topic, John. We miss that category. We love it. Chris, make our case for best performance in a variety special or whatever, variety period, and why it has to come back.
Well, I miss that category so much, but even when it was around, I always thought there should be 2. One for variety series performers, regular performers, Fred Armisen, your SNL players, Amy Schumer, those kinds of people that are regulars on their show, and then also an individual variety performer, which would be your SNL guest stars. It would be Billy Crystal this year on 700 Sundays. It would be Ellen DeGeneres hosting the Oscars. I would love to see those 2 in existence.
I think that's a very good point, and it very well might be that in the annual review that we do of the categories, that will be considered. It's a situation in which the pendulum swings toward consolidation and then it swings toward expansion. We saw that with the long-form program categories, where we contracted minis and movies into a single category with the dearth of minis. Now there's been an expansion in that generic area, and so we split them out. So these rules are not exactly like quicksand, but they definitely are like a pendulum, and both a pendulum and quicksand have a high degree of variability, which we always need to attend to.
John, how many people participate in the judging panels? For example, this is where I'm confused. I've heard 2 numbers. Say best comedy series, I've heard the number about 300. But then I've also heard, oh no, that's just for one of the 3 groupings of. So is it 900 people voting for comedy series, or is it 300? And roughly, you get down between like 25 and 75 for some of those more those acting categories, like supporting performance in a movie or mini, right?
Yeah, Tom, I'm not going to go into the specifics of the number of individuals on the panels. It changes from year to year. We have certain restrictions on some panels. You can't serve longer than 2 years. I would say that the numbers that you're citing are definitely in the ballpark, probably with comedy series in the lower third part of the ballpark. But I would only say that you have substantive and significant numbers of qualified Academy members turning out for these panels. When you get into, as you properly allude to, when you get into smaller peer groups, you necessarily have a smaller pool to draw from, and therefore the panel numbers are smaller. But the fact of the matter is, in this country, in a criminal case, you can hang a person with 12 jurors. So I think that
that's a very good point. Now the ballot, John, it's weighted. Is it just number 1 votes counts? In other words, on the second round of voting, on the first round, everybody just checks off their 10 favorite programs. There's no ranking involved. Their 5 favorite performances. For the second round, they do give a numerical weighting. Is it just number 1 votes counted first, and then those other numbers break a tie, or is it actually weighted? So in other words, that actually your fourth place, your fourth position contender gets some kind of points for that.
Right. This is a type of voting which is known as preferential voting. Let's say that you have 6 nominees. Let's say we're doing one of our marquee categories, such as comedy series or drama series or lead actor in a comedy series, that you would have an expected 6 nominations. Sometimes you have a tie for 6th place and you have 7, but that's the exception that proves the rule. What we would do is we would send out a DVD with all of the nominees, and we would tell that volunteer judge, first of all, you need to look at these, and then you need to cast your vote on the Scantron voting sheet with the little bubbles. And the Scantron voting sheet lists all of the nominees in alphabetical order, and then you rank them one against the other. The intention here is to have a head-to-head horse race competition, and so the ranking would be number 1 for you like this one the best, number 2 second best, etc. When those go to the accountants, they then make sweeps through the most preferred. How many 1s do we have? Let's compare those. How many 2s do we have? Do we need to break a tie? Do we need to go down further than that? But in general, Tom, I think that I could, for the sake of an analogy that would make it comprehensible very easily for your viewers, it's kind of like a golf game in which the golfer who comes in with the lowest score gets to wear the green jacket.
So, but the lowest score, that's what I'm confused.
Basically, lowest score wins with consecutive sweeps from the 1s, and perhaps then you have to go into the 2s and then possibly even down from that. But the basic concept is a golf game kind of analogy.
Oh, so the number 4th and number 5th place aren't automatically counted yet until you go through those sweeps at first.
Yeah. I think that you generally can find your winner in the first 2 sweeps.
I see. Okay. And then you say that the contenders are ranked alphabetically. Is that by last name, by first name, by show?
Oh, yeah, by show.
By show. Okay. Chris, what questions do you have?
On the guest acting this year, you've got a new rule where their episodes are not edited. How did you come to that decision, and how do you think that'll impact those races? I'm thinking specifically, I know you won't comment on specific names, but I'm thinking of somebody like in drama guest actress Jane Fonda's only in the last 5 minutes of her episode. So in a previous year, nobody would know that if they were a voter, but now that might be weighted against her, as opposed to somebody, let's say, like an Allison Janney, who's in a good bit of her episode. So I just wondered about that new rule.
Let me jump in here before you answer it, John, because a case can be made for Robert Morse in Mad Men, who only appears in the last few minutes of his episode, but he's referred to. I love this change, by the way. He's referred to throughout the episode. He dies. They say how much they miss him, and then when he comes in at the last few minutes and does a song and dance number for the season finale, it has real impact. If you cut out the scenes he's not in, you would lose the impact of the final scene.
Right. The history of the guest performer has had many iterations. I think that at one point it was for any 3 episodes. I think at one point it went up possibly up to 6, and then we had edited. And then, no, let's not edit, because as you point out, Tom, there is context that is really useful to the overall performance and role of the guest performer. How do we determine a guest performer as opposed to a lead or a support? Basically, it's a situation in which the Academy, much like the WGA created by credit, has gone to certain contractual industry standards. In a regular series, you basically have the lead, the support, and then and I think the official legal term is the guest day player categorization, and these are the 3 different categorizations. In order to get into the guest performer, you either build on it, or the producer, the production company, will send us a contract that will indicate the placement within the production of that particular individual. So I think that it's a situation in which people don't understand why somebody who has a recurring role, such as Robert Morris did, would even go into guest. Why wouldn't that person be in support? And again, it goes to which particular category of performance you have contractually within a regular series. Hence, the deal that Matt Weiner and Mad Men made with Robert Morris put him in that particular contractual category, and that's the way he translates over into Emmy eligibility. And I agree that the context is really very useful, because all the things that were said about Robert Morris certainly manifested themselves at the conclusion when he came out and did that wonderful little parting dance.
When you guys changed the number of nominees per category to 6 in most races, that was a lot of us cheered. Can we ever have another reason to cheer maybe someday and see the expansion go to 7 or possibly even 10? That would be my dream rundown. What do you say about all that?
There was a bit of a feint in that direction, Tom, this year, where we brought the 2% rule in to apply to nomination categories where we had 6. It used to be that if you had 6, then that was it. If a 7th entry came within 2% of the 6th, this year we would add them in. So I don't think that we are there yet to expand to perhaps the level that you're suggesting might be appropriate. But the rules are reviewed every year. We did make a feint in the direction of 7 this year with the 2% rule, and stay tuned.
Chris?
On the, you had online voting. I'm just wondering, internally, were you all happy with the results of that, and were they were they roughly the same as what you expected, or better than what you expected?
There was a significant and substantive uptick in the participation in the return votes this year, so we were very pleased about that. We were also very pleased that we didn't run into any horrendous technical snafus. We're very, very grateful to the World Cup holding its every 4-year extravaganza right about the time we were doing voting. So all those unpleasant little individuals who spend their days hacking into things like Emmy voting were watching the World Cup, my theory, and therefore they didn't have time or the inclination to come in and play havoc with our awards. So thank you very much, all of you folks who were cheering on your team as opposed to trying to screw up our nominating process.
I have a couple of quick nerdy questions. Why are co-production requirements that make British shows like The Hour and Luther eligible, but not Doctor Who or Broadchurch?
I would say that the general rule is that a co-production from the creative get-go with a contract to show it on U.S. TV, with financing from the creative get-go, all of those things that make a true collaborative co-production, that will let you in. You can go to the international Emmys if you are a straight acquisition of a non-U.S. show. So there's always a place for you in the Emmy competition. It's just that co-productions come to prime time, and acquisitions, foreign productions, go over to the international.
In the writing category for movies and minis, some minis like Luther, the writer is nominated for the whole season, and others he's nominated per episode, like Fargo. So that's very confusing. What's behind that?
Well, it's a situation in which we would assume that in, say, for example, like in the first year of Downton Abbey, where Julian Fowles would have written the entire thing, we would accommodate that with a writer for the entire series. But if we have a situation in which the episodes are divvied up, we would not disqualify a writer from coming in on an individual episode if there was not an opportunity to include the whole thing. So you have you have a concept there in which we would take the breadth and full depth of a writer's contribution, be it a single episode or be it the whole.
Chris?
I'm wondering, your TV partners are always the broadcast networks, and this year they've got the least number of series nominations ever, 2 out of 12, Modern Family and Big Bang Theory. I'm wondering what you hear from them behind the scenes about, they're getting less and less nominations every year.
Yeah, I think at the TCA the other day, and you guys were probably there, but I read something that question was posed to our broadcast partner-in-chief, Robert Greenblatt at NBC this year, and he said, "Oh, let's bring back the Cable Ace Awards. God bless them." It's kind of a situation in which the evolving interests of the broadcast networks and the cable networks, they allot their resources and their energies and their creative spirits in different ways, and I think that Mr. Greenblatt's amusing reference to the now defunct Cable Ace Awards speaks to a kind of lurking suggestion or interest in some quarters that maybe what we should do is subdivide drama series or comedy series into a category for broadcast, a category for cable, perhaps a subcategory for basic cable with commercials and other subcategories. I mean, it goes on ad infinitum. And what happens here is you begin tiering the nominees, the entries and the nominees under a single genre. So, okay, here's a scenario. We have now completed the Emmy Awards for 2014. We're at the ball afterwards. And Jack comes up and says, "Hey, I just won the drama series, best drama series." And Bob, who is hearing him, said, "Wait a minute, you won drama series for broadcast. I won drama series for premium cable," which everybody knows is a much tougher category. And then Sally comes over and says, "I beg your pardon, gentlemen, I just won drama series for basic cable with commercials," which everybody knows is a lot tougher. So you get into a situation in which you diminish the significance of the awards when you start tiering them, and you tier them when you start subdividing them according to genre. The board has been discussing this ever since cable came in way back when, and they have resolutely decided that this is just a really bad idea. You have to field your best team, and we definitely don't want anybody's Emmy going up with an asterisk that says, "Oh, drama series for cable, drama series for basic or for broadcast." So I know that there is, ever since Stephen Bochco made some, I think, very trenchant and appropriate points about this years ago, which prompted him to make poor Dennis Franz drop his trousers on one of the episodes of NYPD Blue to kind of give an ironic tip of the hat, if you will, although on another part of the anatomy, to the license with which these folks who didn't have to have licenses with the FCC could go.
You mentioned the Cable Ace Awards, John. Those were created in the late 1970s. I remember around 1980 is when MTV came on the air. The TV Academy did not permit cable to compete. I believe the year was 1987. And so if you look at that, then even after it was permitted to compete, it still took a long time to get the voters to vote for it and to have it really be on equal footing. What's remarkable about today versus those days is now we have a revolution in media called streaming media. And it got in, Netflix did right away. There was none of that baloney delay of cable. Last year, House of Cards got into drama series. This year, we see Netflix into comedy and drama series. I think what would surprise people, to finish the point you were just making, and you're so familiar with it, you probably didn't think to mention it, but I think would shock everybody is that the decision that the Academy has made, as opposed to defining programs by cable or by those classifications, is that you've basically gotten rid of the whole platform issue and said, look, if you have a half-hour comedy series, on YouTube, you could compete theoretically, right, against Veep and Big Bang Theory?
Right. There is I guess the term is platform agnostic tendency within the Academy leadership, and that is that we attend to genres as opposed to platforms. The Cable Ace was, something that was done within the cable television industry. It was a lobbying group that cooked up the Cable Ace Awards, and I think that for the purpose within that particular lobby, within that particular business group, it made absolute sense. But when you get out of that into the industry in general, platform attention becomes secondary to generic attention, and what's a good drama series is a good drama series, whether it's on broadcast, basic, premium, satellite, or broadband distribution. The distribution mode is secondary to the genre, and the genre is the bucket into which everything goes, and which we draw out the noms and ultimately the winner.
So, Chris, that means that we can have the Gold Derby comedy show, and we could enter it next year. And God knows this is a comedy around here. We could enter it next year against Silicon Valley and all those other shows. What do you think about that?
I like that. I think this interview right here should be up for short format.
All right, last question, Chris. I'll give it to you.
It's really, if you didn't have to go through the Board of Governors, if you didn't have to go through a bunch of people, what would be one thing that you would just love to change? One thing that's on your mind. Maybe you continually fight for it, or maybe you've thought about it in the last year or so, but something you wish would change.
Well, I think that we have a situation in which there is a lot of product that is coming up, not platform exclusive on the internet, but very platform friendly on the internet. I think that we are going to be seeing, and I would be very encouraging of this, I think that we're going to be seeing a new embrace, a more expansive embrace of internet friendly, of web-based friendly. Again, it's not exclusive, because that is a heresy within the platform agnostic academy. I think that we are going to see that even as we saw the rise of nonfiction, especially over in the reality and reality competition over in the last 15 years. I think that we bumped up about 20% the number of our categories in order to embrace that. I think that that is something that we are going to be trending toward over the next 15 or 20 years as the full flowering of the internet platform is more realized. I think that there is a tremendous amount of kind of destructive creativity, I think they call it in Silicon Valley, that is going to be coming out of that, and we're going to be seeing a lot of new and interesting things that will be bubbling up from there, and I think that the Academy will embrace that, and I certainly encourage it.
Well, I want to see the reality judge category one of these days soon, John, okay? I think, first of all, lastly, I should say, congratulations on this year's nominations. I think there was widespread belief that this was a great, great crop of nominees, with one exception at Gold Derby. We're ticked off Tatiana Maslany didn't get in there for Orphan Black, but that's just because we're Orphan Black nerds. But in general, it was a really, really great reception that everybody got, so that means you're doing your job very well. So congratulations on that. Let me ask you as a final thought, do you have any thoughts yourself on this year's nominees?
You know, it's a situation where you go to a really wonderful restaurant and it's just almost impossible to make a bad menu choice. And I think that that analogy really holds true with the wonderful, wonderful product that we're seeing all over platforms in telecommunications, and it's really kind of tough for us to make any huge mistakes. I can assure you that we still have smoldering torches and some broken pitchforks out on the Academy lawn still from the Tatiana situation, but there you have it.
Maybe Don Misher can invite her to be on the show as a presenter. At least give her a little love.
Yeah, he could probably have her on as 6 or 7 different presenters.
Oh, what a great, we'll end there. What a great finale. Thank you so much, John. Again, congratulations for this year.
Okay, thank you.